everyone. My name is Domenico, and welcome to the New York Encounter that this year comes in your place, wherever you live. Now with Angel, we are in LA, because we are now in LA, and we are going to interview Angel. So, who are you?
I am Angel. Do I say when I met you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I met Domenico in July. I am from Japan. I grew up in a religious cult, and when I met Domenico, we just kind of started talking a little bit, and he asked a lot of questions, and it was a lot of fun. But I come from Japan, from a religious cult background, and now what I do is I teach yoga and I talk about religious trauma and kind of share my experience through storytelling. So,
yeah, indeed, you are my yoga instructor, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
So the main theme of the New York Encounter this year is when reality hits, and so I think your experience might help in order to see when reality hit in your life and what did you do after that.
Okay, reality has hit a couple of times. The first time that I remember reality like hitting, where it was different from what I thought it would be, was Y2K, because the cult that I was in, they said that when the clock struck midnight in the year 2000 and everything would end, everything would go dark. And so we had been preparing for this event, and I remember waiting for the countdown to midnight, and I was ready. I was like ready to go underground. I had my backpack. I was like ready for the end of the world. And midnight hit and nothing happened. And I was like, oh, maybe they mean midnight in the US, because I was in Japan at this time. So I went to bed, and the next day I woke up and everything was the same. And I remember being really confused. And that was the first time that reality was very, very different from what I had thought it would be. Because in the cult, it was like they said the outside world is bad, and I would see that. And, they would say people are going to be mean to you, and I would see that. And this was the first time that they said this thing is going to happen, and it didn't happen. And reality was totally different. So that was the first time that reality really hit. And then the second time was deciding to leave the cult, and realizing that I would have to do things that I never thought I would do, like get a job. And then also understanding that as I'm trying to get a job, I don't have any education or any schooling. So the reality of that, the reality of having to support myself. So I've had harsh realities hit a couple of times. And I think for me, after they hit, I think you always have two options. One is that you're going to figure it out, and the other one is that you're going to be stuck. And because those are always, in my opinion, those are always your only two options, I've always thought, okay, well, I have to figure it out because I don't want to stay here. So those are the times that's hit.
I see. I think it's very interesting, this contraposition between being stuck or figuring it out. And so basically you are saying that you were forced to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so I somehow I already know your story, but it was really a big change, right? Going outside the cult. So figuring it out was extremely complicated.
It was extremely complicated because I was given false information about what the world was like. So I was operating off of everything that I had been taught, but of course everything that I had been taught was meant to keep me inside the cult. So coming out of that, I had to not only learn new things, but also unlearn everything that I had been taught. So.
And how did you manage to do this kind of change? Because telling this story seems like easy, but if I were in your situation, I'm not sure I think I would have been stuck.
I don't think so. I think sometimes when people see another person's situation, they think, oh, if I was there, I couldn't have done it. But people do impossible things every day, in my opinion. And I think that when you're faced with a decision, everything that you have shows up to help you. So for me, it was never an option to not move forward. And so I moved forward, but I think that's almost an easier decision than having a lot of options and getting to choose one. For me, it was just like, you're going to go forward or not. And or not is not an option. So really, you do only have one choice. But for me, it was a really interesting thing because I would attempt the impossible of just let me try and get a job without any schooling or without anything, and it would work. And I'd be like, okay. And then it would be like, let me see if I can start to teach yoga, even though I have no money and no experience and I don't know anything, but it worked. And so slowly, all these things that I didn't think would work, when I tried something that I felt was out of my league or crazy, it would work. And I would be like, oh, I can actually do the things that I didn't think that I could do. And so that's just kind of been a slow build of continuing to do things that I didn't think I could do. And then now when something shows up and I feel like, oh, that's impossible, I think, well, that might be fun. Let me try it anyway, you know?
So. And so do you have other examples in how you grew up in this confidence of trying the impossible?
Yeah, so it started super slow because what I realized I didn't have is I didn't trust myself. And I realized that if I can learn to trust myself, then I can have confidence in the world, because confidence, I believe, is knowing what your options are. And if you don't know what your options are, then you become very not confident. And so for me, I just learned how to trust myself, and like, I would say that I would do something and then I would do it just to prove that, like, okay, when I say something that I mean it. Or I would try and keep track. I used to always lose my keys. And then when I was running to a job interview, then I'd be like, where are my keys? I don't know. Then I'm like, oh, I'm a failure anyways, so it's probably fine that I'm not going. But it's the little thing of putting your keys in the same spot. So I trust myself of like, that's where they are. It was little things like that, of just slowly keeping track of little bits of my life, and then realizing that, like, oh, I'm actually good at living my life. I actually can pay a bill on time, or I actually can show up and try and be confident, or I can show up and have a conversation with someone. And it was always one thing at a time. I remember going to a party the first time, and I didn't know anybody because all my friends had been in a cult. So being in the real world, I remember driving up to a party. I knew one person inside, and I didn't want to go in. I was just sitting in my car, and I was like, oh, I'm so anxious. You know, everyone's going to think I'm a weirdo. I'm going to say the wrong things. And then I thought, well, my options are I can drive away and be the exact same person tomorrow, or I can go in for 5 minutes and have the conversation with the one person that I know. And that's where I start. And so I got all my courage. I walked in and I talked to this person for 5 minutes, and then someone else came up, and then that was easy. And each time I told myself, okay, you only have to talk to this person for 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And I ended up staying for a while, and I left feeling really confident of being like, I didn't think that I had the courage to go in and just talk to a bunch of strangers, but I could convince myself to have courage for 5 minutes. And that got me eventually to a really lovely interaction.
I see. This is a very, very inspiring story, I think. And yes, so I don't have other questions, but I mean, if you have other insightful moments of your life that you want to share, for example, I remember some of anecdote, if this is the word, in which you were saying that you are reading. I mean, you are trying to learn how to play chess, right?
Yeah.
And I was surprised by the explanation that you gave to me, that you want to train your ability to see things, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. So I think that now I understand that if I'm willing to be bad at something, then I can eventually be good at it. So when I look to pick up hobbies, I know that whatever I pick up, I'm going to be bad at it. But if I am willing to be bad at it, then I can eventually be good. So with chess, I started and I just didn't see how I could win. And I was like, I don't get it. I lose super fast. But as I was training myself and as I'm learning and sticking with it, you start to see options because you start to learn more. And again, confidence in your abilities, knowing what your options are. So as I started to look at the board and just see the pieces and the options of it, it started to like widen my perspective of what was possible. And then now when I look at life, I think, what is there that I don't see yet that's an option for me that I don't know about? And I just need to keep looking and I need to keep learning. And eventually all these options will become available. It's not that they're not here right now, it's that I just don't see them. So as I continue to learn more, I'm going to start to see more opportunity. And it's the exact same thing with the chessboard. The pieces on the board are the same, but I have learned enough that what I see is different. So.
I see. I think it's another very inspiring, how can I say, comparison. So I'm really grateful for this conversation that we had. It was very brief. And so thanks everyone for watching this, and bye-bye.